Welcome to the Mozal General Induction. Please note that at the end of this session, you will be required to complete a written test to assess your understanding of the safety standards and requirements at Mozal. Should you not pass the test, you will be required to re-attend the training session. This induction video aims to induct everyone entering Mozal sites on the risks and hazards that can be encountered, in addition to clarify health, safety, and environmental duties and responsibilities while on site in order to promote a safe and healthy working environment. Mozal is dedicated to 1,500 safe quality tons every day, and we aim to achieve our goal of zero harm. The Mozal aluminium smelter, operated by South 32, is situated 20 kilometers west of Maputo, the capital of Mozambique, with a capacity of 565,000 tons per annum. We continue to make a positive impact on the community and contribute significantly to Mozambique's economy. We are committed to our vision to be a leading low-cost primary aluminium smelter and the employer of choice. At South 32, our aim is to create a safe working environment, and our stand for safety is that we are committed to our people being injury-free and operations to have no serious incident, where we can guarantee that everyone goes home safe and well every day, as guided by our care strategy and values. Our care strategy is supported by the three pillars of an inclusive workplace, well-designed work, and continuous improvement. This is described by an inclusive workplace. In South 32, we have an inclusive workplace where everyone feels comfortable to bring their whole self to work. We clearly understand our roles and accountabilities with jointly created and owned outcomes, where we feel that we can voice our concerns, ask for help, give feedback, be part of decision making, and feel empowered in our roles. Well-designed work. We engage, develop, and align our people to ensure we have disciplined execution of well-designed work, making sure we have the right people, processes, tools to do the work, and to minimize all risks. Continuous improvement. We continuously improve our work environment to make it safer and more productive for our people, where we learn when we fail and try again and share lessons across South 32 operations. We are guided by our values of care. We care about people, the communities we are part of, and the world we depend on. Trust. We deliver on our commitments and rely on each other to do the right thing. Togetherness. We value difference, listen and share, knowing that together we are better. And excellence. We are courageous and challenge ourselves to be the best in what matters. This overview of the aluminium process will give you a greater insight into safety at Mozal. Raw materials arrive at the Matola Harbour by ship and are transported to the site by road. Preheated petroleum coke is mixed with liquid pitch to form green anodes, which are baked for 17 days in a furnace pit at approximately 1,100 degrees Celsius and then rodded in the rodding shop. The rodded anodes are transported to pot rooms. Mozal has 4 parallel pot rooms, each approximately 1 kilometer long and consisting of 144 pots. Here, the carbon anodes are suspended above a bath of molten electrolyte. Mozal's 5 rectifiers convert AC to DC, which feed to the pot lines in the reduction department. This electrical energy from the substation flows between the anodes and the cathode and reduces the alumina to molten aluminium. The electrolysis process takes place at a temperature of about 960 degrees Celsius. Molten aluminium is tapped into 10-ton ladles and then transported to the cast house. The liquid aluminium is siphoned into furnaces and kept at approximately 760 degrees Celsius. In the cast house, the molten aluminium is poured through a cast wheel into ingot molds and then cooled. The ingot bars, weighing 23.7 kilograms, are assembled by robotic arms into 1-ton stacks, which are then transported to the harbor by road. General site safety. Security. When you arrive at this site, you will be greeted by security. You will be required to give a breathalyzer sample to test for alcohol. No photography without permission. You may not bring weapons, butane lighters, beverage cans, aerosol cans, or alcohol and narcotics on site. All personnel and vehicles will be searched by security when entering or exiting the site. Failure to comply may result in the dismissal of or disciplinary action against the employee or visitor. Ensure that you declare all private property, such as tools and laptops, before entering Mozal. All employees and contractors will be issued an access card that provides access to Mozal industrial premises. You may not borrow or use another person's access card. All lost or damaged access cards must immediately be reported to the Specialist Security or Security. Visitors. All visitors must report to reception when arriving at the site. You will fill out a visitor's indemnity form and then receive a visitor's pass. Visitors must be accompanied by a Mozal host, and they must stay with their host at all times. The host will look after the visitor's health and safety while on site. Visitors are not allowed to do any physical work on the site. Before entering any production area, you need to report to the Authority to Work ATW office. All personnel, except plant owners, accessing production areas must first report to the ATW office. PPE. PPE is the abbreviation for Personal Protective Equipment. It is there to keep you safe. If you go outside the office areas, you must wear 2-piece flame-proof overall with high visibility reflective strips, hard hat, wrap-around safety glasses, approved non-slip safety boots, approved leather gloves. In some areas, you may be required to wear additional PPE as per task requirement, such as respirator, hearing protection, hot metal boots. Check your PPE to make sure that it is in good condition. If there is anything wrong with your PPE, you must request another set. Beards and stubble cause half-mask respirators to leak. You must be clean-shaven to wear a half-mask respirator. All employees must do a respirator fit test to ensure that the respirator fits securely. Respirators must be worn in all areas where mandated by the respirator required signs. Wearing jewelry in production areas of the plant is prohibited, including earrings, finger rings, neck chains, and wrist bracelets or bangles. Signage should be displayed on the outside of an area or unit to inform you of the necessary PPE. Please look out for PPE signage and adhere to the requirements. Emergency. Throughout our site, you will see these emergency assembly point green signs. Please take note of where your nearest assembly point is in case of an emergency. In the event of an emergency, an alarm will sound. Please go to the designated assembly point for the area and remain there until the area is declared safe or you are asked to proceed to a different location. Remember, walk, don't run. Mozal has dedicated 24-hour emergency services on site, including fire team, ambulance, and security services. The emergency number to call is 217 35 911 for external or 5911 from an internal extension. Remember to stay calm and stay at the scene until emergency personnel arrive. Report all injuries and incidents immediately, irrespective of their severity, to the supervisor of the area in order to be investigated and prevent reoccurrence. Do not move seriously injured people unless they are in danger from equipment, falling objects, etc. All injured persons, Mozal employees or contractors, will report to the Mozal Clinic for medical attention. Walkways. Stay on the demarcated walkways and do not take shortcuts through production buildings. Always watch where you are walking, especially on construction sites, when working at heights, on gantries and staircases. No running allowed on site. Watch out for trip hazards. Keep a lookout for muddy or uneven surfaces. Throughout our site, we employ a 3-point contact on all staircases. This simply means hold the handrail when going up and coming down the stairs. Take one step at a time and walk, don't run. Barricading. Barricading is there to prevent access to restricted and dangerous areas. Here are some examples of barricading. Please stay away from barricaded areas if you do not have authorized access. Smoking. In line with government policy, smoking is only allowed in designated smoking areas. Mobile phones. Talking on mobile phones, including hands-free sets, is prohibited while driving on and off site, while walking within Mozal premises, and while operating any equipment or performing a task. Signage. There are many different types of signs on our site. Let's look at these now. Red signs indicate prohibited items or actions. Yellow signs are warning signs. Blue is used for mandatory signs. Green signs contain general information. Remember to read all signage. Take note of general signs, emergency signs, firefighting signs, PPE signs, danger signs, caution signs, and road signs. Signs should be clearly visible. Don't tamper with the signs and report any defects to the safety officer or to your superiors. Please pay special attention to signage. It is there for your own safety. And if you are not sure of anything, please ask. Liquids. You may not take any liquid container, aerosol can, or lighter into a production area. If any liquid container or lighter falls into molten metal, it will cause a devastating explosion. Magnetic fields. We have a strong magnetic field in the reduction department and near the main substations. If you have a heart pacemaker, you must not enter these areas. Bank cards and analog watches may be damaged by the magnetic field. Do not take them into these areas. Electrical hazards. Huge amounts of electricity is used in the reduction process, meaning that there are various electrical hazards on site. Beware of areas with this sign. Playing with electricity can result in electrocution and death. No unauthorized entrance is allowed at the electrical substations. Radiation. We have radiation on site. Signage is displayed where a radiation hazard is present. Pay attention to these signs and do not enter these areas unless authorized to do so. Ladders. Conductive ladders such as steel or aluminium ladders are not permitted. When working on ladders, you must always use a ladder standby. Always have a 3-point contact on the ladder, for example, 2 feet and 1 hand. Drugs and alcohol. South 32's drug and alcohol policy is there to keep a secure and safe working environment. Please note that Mozal has a zero-tolerance policy regarding alcohol and narcotics in the workplace. You will be tested for alcohol before entering the site. There is also a random drug testing program to make sure that the employees and contractors are fit for work. You will also be tested for alcohol on suspicion and also after an incident. Sexual harassment. South 32 is committed towards creating a working environment for its employees, which is free from all forms of intimidation, harassment, and discrimination, including sexual harassment. South 32 views sexual harassment as a form of discrimination and misconduct that undermines the basic integrity of the employment relationship. No employee, whether male or female, should be subjected to unsolicited and unwelcome overtures of conduct either verbally, physically, or by electronic medium. South 32 commits to zero tolerance of sexual harassment initiated by its employees or by non-employees. Examples of sexual harassment can be in the form of unwelcome advances, requests for sexual favors, verbal suggestions and innuendos or sexual jokes, circulation of sexually explicit pictures, indecent exposure, sexual bribery, sexual favoritism, or sexual victimization. Discussion. At this point, we will pause to allow an opportunity for the facilitator to generate some discussion and ask some questions to assess participant understanding. Guideline questions as follows. Life-saving rules. Throughout our site, you must always follow the general life-saving rules. Apply an individual lock whenever performing a task requiring isolation. Before all maintenance work can be carried out, you will need to lock out the pipes, devices, or equipment that you will be working on. Personal locks are issued to ensure that you have a unique personal control of an isolation. Every person working on the isolated equipment or process must individually lock out the energy source so that it cannot be mistakenly energized. All employees doing isolation must ensure that they have trained on the general isolation module. Wear and secure a safety harness when working at heights. Working at heights is one of our biggest risks at the site. Employees are not allowed to work at heights or issue work permits to work at heights without the required training. Only operate equipment or vehicles if you have a valid license. All drivers of light vehicles and surface mobile equipment at South 32 operations must have a public driver's license and be trained in the driving rules for South 32 operations and be assessed as competent to drive at South 32 operations. Perform a risk assessment and obtain authorization and the required permits before work. Make sure that you have the relevant permits and training before undertaking a task. Suspended loads. Never stand, walk, or work under a suspended load. No unauthorized bridging or bypass of hard or soft safety devices. Do not interfere with or damage safety equipment or devices. Do not enter any areas that you do not have authorized access to. Do not enter the site or perform any work under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Please note that Mozal has a zero tolerance policy regarding alcohol and narcotics in the workplace. The 4 steps to safety. To assist everyone in staying safe, the 4 steps to safety will remind you of the hazards and risks in the areas and whenever a task is done. Ask yourself the following questions whenever preparing to start any task. 1. What am I about to do? 2. Which tools am I about to use and are they safe? 3. What can go wrong while doing it? 4. What am I going to do now to prevent injury to myself and others? Red and green cards. These cards are safety tools for use by both Mozal employees and contractors. The red card is aimed at empowering Mozal employees and contractors to stop any work that is thought to be unsafe. It is your duty to stop unsafe acts or conditions, regardless of who is involved in it. The green card is aimed at empowering Mozal employees and contractors to give recognition to any work that is thought to be safe. This will encourage everyone to keep on following the 4 steps to safety and the life-saving rules of Mozal. Use this tool to ensure that your safety and everyone else's is not compromised. Discussion. At this point, we will pause to allow an opportunity for the facilitator to generate some discussion and ask some questions to assess participant understanding. Guideline questions as follows. Authority to work, ATW. ATW is a process of determining the safe execution of all work and serves as a consolidation of requirements or defined criteria for safe work. These requirement or criteria may include one or more permits, permissions, and other levels of authorization that are issued by trained and accredited persons who validate that controls are in place and effective. Permit to work is the evidence of a physical on-site verification of the effectiveness of controls for identified high-risk tasks by an independent, competent person immediately prior to the task commencing. These tasks requires a written ATW process to be followed, such as confined space entry, hot work, controlled release of stored energy and braking containment, working on high voltage exceeding 1000 volts alternating current, electrical equipment, simultaneous work activities that have the potential to cause fatalities, complex lifts, work at height, fire isolation, mobile earth, excavation and demolition permit. A permission, medium risk tasks can be actioned through a written ATW process, such as live work, bridging and bypassing of interlock system, process control and system change request, Sasol gas. There are three roles in the PTW process: the holder, authorizer, and issuer. The authorizer and issuer may be the same person. The responsibilities of each role are as follows. The holder is accountable for the planning of the work and must identify the tasks that will require a PTW. They must ensure that a competent person allowed to authorize the required permits will be available on site. The holder must then prepare for the task and, when ready, call the authorizer to verify that the controls applicable to the permit are in place and effective. The holder must keep a hard copy of the permit for the duration of the task, and they are responsible for the safe completion of the task. When the task is completed, the holder must ensure that the permit is closed. The authorizer must not be a member of the team about to execute the work and must not be the holder. They must be assessed as competent to authorize the permit and be formally appointed by the legally appointed manager. The authorizer must undertake a physical in-field verification that risks associated with the specific permit are identified and controlled prior to the task commencing. The authorizer may approve continuation of the task or refer the holder to an issuing authority if required. The issuer. If required, complex operations may appoint a person or persons in a central area with a wider view of all operations, either through a dedicated permitting process or through an operations control area. It is the issuer's responsibility to check that there is no negative impact on any authorized task, or that tasks are scheduled in such a way that the risk posed by simultaneous operations is managed. The issuer will give authority for continuation of work based on the interference of simultaneous operations or other external risks. Electronic access. All personnel except production plant owners will be required to scan in and out into the virtual access card. Breach of ATW procedure. Removing or interfering with another person's personal lock is regarded as a total disregard of the ATW procedure. Failing to place a personal lock before commencing work which requires an isolation is regarded as a major breach. Failing to scan. Leaving a lock on after completing work or failure to log onto the virtual access or physical access bar when required is regarded as a minor breach. A disciplinary process will follow. Discussion. At this point, we will pause to allow an opportunity for the facilitator to generate some discussion and ask some questions to assess participant understanding. Guideline questions as follows. Cell 32 Common Fatal Risks and Mandated Controls. Cell 32 has identified a group of 10 material safety risks that account for about 90% of fatal accidents across the company, with common critical controls specified for managing these common fatality risks. There are also additional standard requirements identified for some of these risks. The 10 fatal risks are: 1. Arc flash. An event where electric current flows through an air gap between conductors. Many people assume that low voltage equipment is safe from arc flash, but arc flash hazard levels may be higher at low voltages due to the high fault currents. Arc flash can also be caused due to carelessness or accidents, for example, touching the wrong surface with a test probe, improper tools, installation and work techniques, lack of electrical safety awareness and training, use of damaged electrical materials or equipment, obstruction in disconnect panels, insulation damage, gaps or wear and tear, dust, debris and corrosion on electrical conductors, improper preventative maintenance for circuit breakers and switches, exposed live parts, loose connections or corrosion, static electricity or high voltage cables, exposure of electrical equipment to water or other liquids, flash protection boundary (FPB), an approach limit at a distance from live parts that are not insulated within which a person could receive a second-degree burn. Most incidents that occur in low-voltage systems are caused by human error. For example, a tool slipping while a technician works on electrical equipment. When any maintenance, repair, fault finding, testing or operating is carried out below 1000 volt, must wear category specified on arc flash warning label. Work 10.9 cal per square centimeter. Survive arc helmet with integrated face shield 20 cal per square centimeter. Survive arc t-shirt long sleeve 10.9 cal per square centimeter with alu-safe jacket buttoned to the top. 16 cal per square centimeter Survive arc gloves A16. 10.9 cal per square centimeter Survive arc underpants boxers with alu-safe pants and socks that are made from 100% untreated natural fabric, non-melting materials, hearing protection. Alu-safe red back safety shoes. Isolation. An action where the energy source is disconnected or separated to protect the health and safety of people and to eliminate equipment and machinery damage. If guards need to be removed or interlocks need to be bypassed to undertake live testing, a task-specific procedure must be followed. Guards and interlocks must not be modified, altered, or permanently removed without an approved risk-based change management process. Personnel required to remove guards or enter an interlocked zone must be trained and competent. Where guarding and/or interlocking systems are insufficient or impractical to protect people, access must be controlled and monitored. Do not operate any equipment if the safeguard has been removed, and report machine guarding that does not meet this standard. If conveyors are working and there is an emergency, there is a tripwire that runs the length of the conveyor. Pulling on this wire will shut down the system. Remember to wear a respirator if there is excessive dust near the conveyor belt. Before all maintenance work can be carried out, you will need to identify all energy sources that can impact the job or task. Safely de-energize, release, secure, contain, close, or isolate any identified energy sources. A unit must be tested for zero, depending on what work is needed. Either test for zero gas, test for zero heat, zero pressure, zero electrical current, or test for zero mechanical movement. Personal locks. Yellow personal locks are issued to ensure that you have a unique personal control of an isolation. Every person working on the isolated equipment or process must individually lock out the energy source so that it cannot be mistakenly energized. Mozal employees and contractors' personal locks will be issued by the ATW specialist on site. For visitors, the ATW officer will issue a temporary personal lock at the ATW office. You will be issued with a minimum of one personal lock. Don't give your key or lock to another person. Immediately report to your supervisor if you lose your lock or key. Always have your personal lock available on site to allow you to access a work area or lock onto isolations to perform work. These personal locks are used for the following. 1. To lock onto an access bar inside the ATW office when a work group requires access and no isolations. Receiving verbal access for routine maintenance inspections. Access to a different area is required by a Mozal employee. 2. To lock onto a lockbox isolation inside the ATW office. 3. To perform local isolations in the plant area by trained local isolation officers. Work teams must apply their personal locks under the direct supervision of the holder. The holder is the first to place their personal lock, identified by a blue disc, and the last to remove their personal lock. Work teams using a portable lockbox for isolations will apply their personal locks at the work site. Three, confined space. An activity where persons enter a space with limited entry and egress and not suitable for human inhabitants. A confined space is made up of two types of dangers. The first is a physically confined space, an area that limits your movement. The other danger is air quality. Often the area has toxic fumes or gases that need to be ventilated. Never work in confined spaces without a work permit or the correct training. Remember to always obtain authorization before entering a confined space and to always wear the required PPE. Test the atmosphere before entering a confined space. Constantly test gas levels to ensure that they remain within the safe range while personnel are in the confined space. Employees entering a confined space must be trained to use a gas detecting instrument, GDI. Let's see what happens if you do not test the atmosphere before entering a confined space. A rescue plan must be available for immediate rescue of personnel trapped or overcome in a confined space. Except for breathing apparatus, no gas cylinders are permitted in a confined space. Never work alone. Always have a trained safety standby stationed outside high-risk confined spaces. Easy and clear communication must be maintained at all times between those inside the space and those outside. Safety standbys. Four, dropped and falling objects. An event where an object falls from its previous position under its own weight, gravity, without any applied force, is a dropped object. Dropped and falling objects pose a risk to persons passing beneath when they drop. Care must be taken when walking in the plants to ensure such risks are identified. Common items are nuts and bolts, pieces of steel, tools and other loose spares left after tasks are completed. Common areas from where these items could fall on people are when persons are working at height, walkway gratings and building structure, storage racks and tops of cupboards. When these items are identified, they should be immediately removed if such removal poses no risk, or they should be reported to the area supervisor to be removed. 5. Electric shock. An event where a sudden discharge of electricity through a part of the body is experienced. Physical contact with energized wiring or devices is the most common cause of an electric shock. In cases of exposure to high voltages, such as on a power transmission tower, physical contact with energized wiring or objects may not be necessary to cause electric shock, as the voltage may be sufficient to jump the air gap between the electrical device and the victim. 6. Entanglement. An activity where a person can be caught up and injured or killed by machinery, static or moving, represents an entangled risk. On site, we have several different types of equipment that can create nip or pinch points. This is the coming together of two or more moving surfaces. A good example of a nip point is a conveyor belt system. These nip points are extremely dangerous as clothing, fingers or hands can be pulled in. Moving or rotating equipment must have a means of preventing accidental access where personnel are at risk of interaction with it. All moving or rotating machinery must have guarding as close to the moving or rotating part as possible. If machinery can be a danger to persons, the area owner must enclose the machinery and must keep the entrances to these areas closed and locked. Guards must only be removed for maintenance or repair once the plant and equipment has been isolated and must be replaced before de-isolation. 7. Lifting events. An activity related to machine, generally equipped with a hoist rope, wire ropes or chains, and sheaves that can be used both to lift and lower materials and to move them horizontally. All complex lifts must be controlled by a qualified rigger and have a formal lifting plan. The operator must have a license for the lifting machinery. Lifting machines must have an electrical or mechanical overload protection device that will fail to save if the safe working load is achieved. All lifting machinery must be fitted with an overwind limiter. Make sure that ground and weather are appropriate for the lift. A competent person must inspect each piece of lifting equipment quarterly, which must be clearly marked to confirm compliance. Clearly mark lifting machines and equipment, example cranes, slings and shackles, to show the safe working load. All crane hooks shall be fitted with positive locking safety catches. Lifting operations must be appropriately illuminated. Anti-collision devices must be fitted to cranes that share a common rail. Any person operating lifting machinery or using lifting equipment must be authorized in writing by the legally appointed engineer. The operator must be deemed competent by virtue of his knowledge, training, skills, and experience for each specific piece of lifting machinery and must hold a license for that piece of lifting machinery. Never stand, walk, or work under a suspended load. Stay away from overhead cranes and suspended loads. Always look upwards when you enter a production area to make sure that nothing is being carried on a crane above you. Remember, the FTA and PTA have right of way. Also, do not distract or disturb crane operators. 8. Light vehicles and mobile equipment events. An activity involving persons operating light vehicles or other industrial vehicles. When driving on our site, you must adhere to normal road rules as well as our site-specific rules. Always adhere to the speed limit 20 km per hour outside production areas and 5 km per hour walking speed inside production areas. An in-vehicle monitoring system, IVMS, is fitted to each vehicle. Speeding violations must be reported to the line manager and a just culture process followed. You must not use a mobile phone even if you have hands-free kit when you are driving, unless the vehicle or mobile equipment is stopped at a safe location. All occupants in light vehicles must have and use a forward or rear-facing seat and a 3-point inertia wheel seat belt. In surface mobile equipment, you must use a seat belt as fitted by the original equipment manufacturer, OEM. Loads must be secured in such a way that they cannot drop off the vehicle or shift during transit. For example, cargo netting, dog guards in people carriers, cargo tie-downs, and brackets for fire extinguishers. For better visibility and ease of getaway, always reverse park. Headlights must be on while on site. All vehicles must have a valid license disc. The disc should be clearly visible. Drivers are to undergo alcohol testing at the start of every shift and random drug testing. A fatigue management process is implemented and enforced. All drivers of light vehicles and surface mobile equipment at South32 operations must have a public driver's license, be trained in the driving rules for South32 operations, and be assessed as competent to drive at South32 operations. Vehicle pre-use checks. Drivers must always do a pre-check of their vehicle before using them and complete the checklist. Critical components, i.e. tires, wheel assemblies, brakes, and steering, must be regularly inspected and tested for safe operation. Don't drive a vehicle that is not roadworthy. Pedestrians. Pedestrians must always use pedestrian walkways and pedestrian crossings. You must always make positive eye contact with the driver. Pedestrian walkways and crossings are color-coded according to the zone or interface area. These black and white stripes mark a pedestrian crossing outside buildings. This marking shows an interface area pedestrian crossing inside a building. This marking shows a high-risk interface area pedestrian crossing inside a building. Walkways inside buildings are green. Walkways outside buildings are marked with this symbol. PPC free walkways inside the maintenance workshop are blue. In exclusion zones, when a person is inside the zone, a vehicle may not enter. And if there is a vehicle inside the exclusion zone, a person is not allowed to enter. The pedestrian has the right of way at a pedestrian crossing. If there is an approaching vehicle, the pedestrian must wait until the driver shows that it is safe to cross. This marking shows where people and production vehicles cross. Before opening the gate, stop, look, and listen to see that no vehicles are coming. Moving machinery. Moving machinery is any machinery such as trucks, cranes, and many others that have moving parts or can move around the site. These machines are usually very large and slow moving. Only the operator and one assistant may be within 5 meters of remotely controlled mobile equipment while it is operating. Keep a safe working distance from moving machinery. Stop blocks. When mobile machinery is not being used, the use of stop blocks is essential. (9) Loss of containment of hazardous materials. An event where hazardous material spillage occurs due to loss of integrity or container failure. Hazardous materials must be stored in clearly marked containers and kept locked away from casual use. The areas where hazardous chemicals are stored must be kept clean and neat. There is a drip tray with high bund walls and chemical fire extinguishers. Security and access control is required for areas where hazardous materials are stored, processed, and handled in bulk. A Material Safety Data Sheet (MSDS), which has all the relevant information regarding the chemicals or substances, must be available. Storage areas must have the relevant signage attached and be kept away from any open flames or heat sources. Area used for the storage of hazardous materials must be adequately ventilated. Personnel required to use, transport, handle, or store hazardous materials must be trained and competent. Only dispose of chemicals in chemical disposal bins. There must be a process to inspect, test, and maintain equipment critical to the safe handling and storage of hazardous materials. 10. Personnel falling from height. An event where, if there were no precautions in place, a person could fall a distance liable to cause personal injury. Working at heights is one of our biggest risks at the site, and just by following some simple rules, we can make sure that we all safely get home to our families. Always hook up on 2 different poles, or use lifelines where required. If you're on scaffold, make sure the scaffold has a safety use sign with that day's date. If you see that the scaffold is not safe to use, don't use it. Ensure that equipment is well secured when working at heights. If you are required to use a fall restraint or fall arrest system, you must have undertaken work at height training and successfully passed an assessment. Walkways, scaffolding, and mobile elevated work platforms must have fall prevention systems, including mesh, railing, or solid barriers at all edges and openings. tow boards surrounding all platforms at deck level, flooring securely fastened. If you're working outside a safe zone, for example area without handrails or outside the handrails, you must wear a full body safety harness with 2 lanyards and foot straps. These safety harnesses must be connected to an appropriate anchor point as determined by a risk assessment. You may not use a fall restraint or fall arrest system while alone. Work areas where mobile elevated work platforms and scaffolds are used must be clearly demarcated to prevent the unauthorized entry of light vehicles and surface mobile equipment. Drop zones under or near a work at height task must be clearly demarcated to prevent unauthorized entry. Work at height equipment must be inspected at least quarterly and clearly marked to confirm compliance. Rescue equipment and capability must be immediately available. Mozal specific fatal risks and mandated controls. Mozal has identified an additional 5 material safety risks that could have a negative impact on the organization, with critical controls specified for managing these fatality risks. The 5 additional fatal risks are: 11. Lightning. An event where a natural electrical discharge of very short duration and high voltage between a cloud and the ground or within a cloud, accompanied by a bright flash and typically also thunder, occurs. High wind, rain and lightning are also potential hazards. Some operations will need to be stopped during these events. A system must be in place to alert operations to the potential for thunderstorms. Personnel on foot must have cover available when the lightning warning is received as per the service provider protocol. If there is lightning in the vicinity, move to a shelter, building, or into an enclosed vehicle as soon as lightning danger is issued. Rubber-tired surface mobile equipment struck by lightning must be immediately parked, safely evacuated after the all clear is sounded, barricaded, and left unattended for 24 hours. Buildings must be protected by an earthing system. Supervisors, whose personnel may be exposed to lightning outdoors, must have a mobile phone or radio to receive the alerts from the early warning system or control room. All personnel who work outdoors must know and understand the requirements to be under cover or in an enclosed vehicle when lightning is in the vicinity. 12. Working in or close to water. An activity where persons are required to perform work near or in a body of water where, if a person falls, they can be submerged. If you are working within 3 meters of an unprotected, dangerous water body, you must always wear a life jacket. Your life jacket must be approved by a certified body and appropriate for the weight of the person who will wear it. Your life jacket must also have enough buoyancy to keep your head above water. Make sure your life jacket is properly secured and never work alone. Permanent man-made water bodies must be securely fenced at least 3 meters away from the edge. Pedestrian gates to permanent man-made water bodies must swing shut and latch automatically. Permanent water bodies must be appropriately signposted to warn against unauthorized access and the risk of drowning. Any person needing to enter a water body for any reason must be assessed as being able to swim. For underwater work, specific competencies for divers, supervisors, and rescuers are required. 13. Uncontrolled spread of fire. an event where fire spreads rapidly through the interior of a structure or area due to the expansion of the gases because of the combustion. Hot work is one of our largest potential hazards on any of our sites because we work with gases, chemicals, sparks and molten metal, so extra care needs to be taken. Never do hot work without a work permit or the correct training. Relocate combustible objects to a safe distance and separate them with approved barriers. Fire extinguishers must be readily available. Never do hot work without the correct PPE. Fires in defined critical areas must be detected early enough to trigger an alarm and allow enough time to evacuate all personnel. When a fire alarm sounds, a process must be in place to ensure that all personnel can evacuate the work area or building to a safe place. After a fire has been detected, a system must be available to quench or smother the fire. A system to detect fires at the earliest stage must be in place for critical areas. This may be flame, smoke or heat detection or combinations thereof. Evacuation plans must be available for all buildings, mines and facilities. Fire alarms must be capable of alerting all occupants of the building, regardless of their location. Alarm signals should not silence automatically and should only be disarmed manually. Firefighting personnel must be trained and assessed as competent. Occupants of buildings or facilities must be trained and aware of the required action in the event of a fire. Occupants must be trained and aware of high-risk, flammable substances, tires, gas, fuel, etc. within the buildings or facilities. 14. Working with oxy-fuel gas. An activity where persons use acetylene and oxygen combinations to produce a flame to perform steel cutting. If you're working with oxy-fuel gas, you must make sure of the following. Oxy-fuel gas equipment must be selected, inspected, and maintained by trained and qualified personnel. Gas storage areas must be well ventilated and secured. Flashback arresters must be fitted to oxy-fuel gas equipment at the cylinder and torch ends. There must be adequate ventilation or fume extraction units if there is a possibility of buildup of gases while you are using the gas equipment. Gas cylinders must be stored with valves in the closed position. Portable fire extinguishers must be available in the area where oxy-fuel gas work is being undertaken. If you're using or in control of oxy-fuel gas operations, you must be trained to use the equipment and identify risks associated with gases. 15. Molten metals handling. An activity where persons work with molten metal where the person is separated from the molten metal by design. We work with materials at extremely high temperatures throughout our site. Make sure that you wear the correct PPE when working with molten aluminium and other hot materials. Water, oxides, and other incompatible materials and chemicals must be separated from molten metal. Areas where personnel may be directly exposed to molten metals must be defined, demarcated, and have authorized access. Surfaces of equipment that come in contact with molten material must be coated, prepared, or dried, or be of such a grade that no exothermic reaction will occur when contact is made. Molten metal facilities must have a response plan for credible emergencies involving molten material, including safe refuge and emergency response equipment for spillage containment, fires, explosions, burns, etc., and the recovery and disposal of the molten material. If you work with molten metals, you must be aware of the hazards and risks, as well as the health implications associated with the area and how to avoid them. You must be trained and assessed as competent to fulfill your duties both under normal operating conditions and emergency conditions. Be careful what you touch. An aluminium ingot that is 600 degrees Celsius looks exactly the same as an ingot at room temperature. Do not touch the aluminium. Discussion. At this point, we will pause to allow an opportunity for the facilitator to generate some discussion and ask some questions to assess participant understanding. Guideline questions as follows. Housekeeping. Housekeeping means keeping our work area neat, clean, and in order. This is not just to look nice. Bad housekeeping is one of the main causes of injuries on a site. A loose cable can mean the difference between life and death. Remove all unnecessary items from the workplace. Make a place for everything and put everything in its place. Keep work areas clean and exits, entrances, and aisles clear. Vacuum or wet sweep dusty areas frequently and clean up spills and leaks of any type quickly and properly. Store all work materials in approved, clearly labeled containers in designated storage areas only. Clean and store tools, items, and equipment properly. Fix or report broken or damaged tools, equipment, etc. Housekeeping is a part of your job performance. It is not an extra task that someone else should perform. We are proud of our site. Together, we keep it clean and tidy for your safety. Environmental. Mozal is committed to operate its business in a safe, responsible manner which promotes the health and well-being of each employee and impacts positively on the environment and community in which we work and live. Mozal cares for the environment. The 4 gas treatment centers collect gas from the pots and release clean gas out to the atmosphere. The 2 fume treatment centers clean all the combustion gases released by the bake furnace. We also have a dust collector to separate dust particles from the air. Waste disposal color codes. There are waste bins throughout our site. Different color bins are for different types of waste because Mozal cares for the environment. Please use the correct bins. Pale yellow bins are for non-hazardous general domestic waste. Orange bins are for paper. Black bins are for wood pallets. Bright green bins are for all scrap metal. Green bins are for cast iron slag. Red bins are for industrial waste. Light brown bins are for any oil-contaminated materials. The Arctic blue bins are for hazardous waste contaminated with fluoride. Yellow bins are for spent pot lining, SPL. Dark blue is for pitch waste. Purple bins are for bake furnace refractories. Used oil is to be discarded in dark brown bins. Blue bins are for lining hazardous materials. Medical waste is to be discarded in white and red boxes. Light green bins are for organic solvents. Maroon bins are for samples or towels contaminated with mercury. Light red bins are for bottles contaminated with mercury. Olive green bins are for broken laboratory glass. Don't overload bins or mix waste. Waste boards display information about the type of waste to be thrown in the relevant bin. Please read the signs on the bins and make sure that you throw the different types of waste into the correct color bins. Manual materials handling. Some of the manual tasks we perform at work, such as lifting, reaching, pushing, pulling, and repeating the same movements, can cause strain on our bodies. Not all manual tasks are hazardous, but there are certain risk factors which may contribute to an injury. It is important to consider how much and how long a worker is exposed to the risk. This can also depend on individual characteristics that vary from worker to worker, such as height, weight, gender. The 4 key characteristics of hazardous manual tasks are force, repetition, awkward or static postures, vibration. Let's look at ways to prevent injuries. Warm up and stretch muscles prior to doing tasks. When lifting heavy weights or lifting repetitively, it is recommended you have a short break between repetitions. This break provides time for the muscles to recover. Materials that must be manually lifted should be placed at power zone height, about mid-thigh to mid-chest. When lifting objects, especially heavy objects, do not bend your back. Bend your knees instead. Keep your back straight and lift using your legs. Lift the load smoothly. Do not jerk the load. When putting the object down, the same rules apply. Try to avoid bending and twisting motions, as these put a lot of strain on your joints. Lift your feet when turning, as seen here. When carrying heavy loads, use extra people instead of straining yourself. Try to avoid repetitive actions, and if this is impossible, try to shift the position of your body often, as seen here. If you work in an office, pay attention to the way you sit. Make sure you sit in your chair as seen here, with a straight back. Arching your back like this can cause problems after some time. Keep your computer monitor at least 30 centimeters or the length of a ruler away from your face to protect your eyes. Try to sit with your desk level with your elbows and your feet flat on the floor as seen here. Maintain physical fitness and strength. Non-active people are more likely to suffer a sprain than those with strong muscles. Medical. We have a fully equipped medical center located on site with state-of-the-art facilities and expert medical staff. All employees and contractors will be required to submit to a medical evaluation, which includes your health as well as your fitness to work on site. Employees and contractors will also need to attend annual medical evaluations to ensure safety and fitness. You must tell the medical practitioner if you have any chronic or long-term illnesses to ensure that when you need medical help, that the correct precautions and medications are used. If you are using medication which may cause you to feel sleepy, report it to your supervisor and/or the clinic. All your medical information is confidential and kept secure and locked away. That means that your HIV status, as well as any other medical information, is not available to anyone except the medical staff. Around our site, there are water showers in case of an accidental burn, and also eye wash in case you get something in your eye. Drinking water. Not all water on our site is safe to drink. Only use designated water. This sign means that the water is safe to drink. Don't drink water from a tap with this sign. Always look for a sign before you drink water from a tap. Ablution facilities are shown with these signs. Remember to wash your hands after using the ablution facilities. Clean hands help to keep you healthy. Mozal is situated in a malaria area. Malaria is spread to humans via the bite of an infected mosquito. If you think that you might have malaria, seek medical attention immediately. Malaria is curable and should be treated as quickly as possible. Make sure that you complete the course of medication prescribed. Wear mosquito repellent to protect yourself from mosquitoes. Heat stress. Heat stress is caused by either working in very hot areas for long periods, or if you are in direct heat, like the sun, for a long time. It occurs when your body can't keep itself cool. Make sure that you drink plenty of water to prevent heat stress when it is hot. Avoid drinking caffeine or alcohol, as these cause dehydration. Remember that you must not take liquids with you to any production areas. There are drinking fountains on site for when you get thirsty. Noise stress. Some production areas have high noise levels that could damage your hearing. Look out for PPE signage and make sure that you always wear hearing protection, such as earplugs or earmuffs when required. Conduct regular audiometric tests to monitor your hearing. Do not enter a respirator area if you are pregnant or breastfeeding. If you have any questions, ask a professional at the Mozal Clinic. Discussion. At this point, we will pause to allow an opportunity for the facilitator to generate some discussion and ask some questions to assess participant understanding. Guideline questions as follows. We have come to the end of our induction training. Please take the information you have learned in this video and use it to keep yourselves safe. If there is something you are still unsure about, please ask questions. When it comes to safety, one can never be too careful. Remember, preventing yourselves and your workmates from harm starts with you. You will now need to complete a competency test. Please take note of the following rules. Circle just one answer per question. Do not talk to the person next to you. When you have completed the test, please bring it to the front for marking.